Welcome everyone. Till now, as we have discussed our 4 units, starting with how the management concept being evolved, then taking into account how we can make business to practice good practices and grow, we came up with concept of planning, where we talked about how planning need to be carried and decision making has got how much importance in the organization. Once we were known with how the planning has to be carried out, we discussed about how all the different work which is carried within any organization need to be categorized, segmented, departmentalized, and then the execution of individual departments' work is going to contribute towards the overall organization's growth. Thereafter, for going ahead, we identified for performing all these executions, all these responsibility, we required people, under which we studied about staffing. Within staffing, we discussed about how individuals are need to be taken into organization. After taking them into organization, we need to identify their training related areas, need to nurture them. Once they've been nurtured, they must be identified as a good performer out of the available all the resources. And then if someone performs better, the person need to be appraised. There are further activities which we can deal within our practices, that is how we can keep motivation of individuals within the organization and how their leadership style can be enhanced so that we can have better outcome. Now, as we decide that we have to execute as per the plan, so we need to decide about certain standards which has to be adhered by any individual for getting the outcomes as per the required objectives. So for these objectives to be attained, we have certain standards, and these standards being monitored by individuals while the performance being given by resources. So the process of monitoring individuals performances against the standard established for each job profile, each work, is called controlling. Now, moving ahead with the introductory part, let's understand what control says. That is, it is checking current performance against the predetermined standards contained in the plan, with a view to ensuring adequate progress and satisfactory performance. The ultimate aim is whatever we have planned that need to be get into reality, and that is only possible when we maintain, we monitor all the performance against the standards which we have established while we were deciding about the plan for execution. Now, this process of executing this monitoring over the performance of individual is comes as a controlling process. So the controlling process measures performance and taking action to ensure desired results. So it's not only just monitoring, we can identify certain loopholes or feedback which can be updated to the individual. Another dimension that it is a positive dimension which need to be necessary while keeping the objectives into account and making them possible to be attained. Another contribution which controlling provides, that it ensures that the things are being done in a right manner, in a right time, and the right things are being taking place. So when we look forward for a qualitative, quantitative, and we can say efficient outcome from the organization, we need to have controlling, which is taking monitoring and observing about how performance is being carried and updating with the proper way. Now we can identify what the outcome which we can benefit through controlling, that will be the organizational learning. So organization which is performing controlling related dimension is going to learn again and again with their mistakes while monitoring executions. In this, we can come across with whatever actions being taken by the individuals with respect to different job profile being reviewed, and then the review is being added with respect to some modification in the currently presently executed work so that the outcome is matching with the objectives decided. Now, for this, we must understand how this controlling, being very important, is carried out within the organization. So there is the process related to controlling. So controlling process, as we started with controlling related dimension, that it is only possible to control when we have predetermined standards. So the first and foremost important part for controlling process is that is we must have establishment of standards. So what standards we need to establish? The first standard related to time, that whatever task, whatever duties has to be performed by individual must contain certain time related foundations, must have some defined time parameters under which that execution need to be carried out. This will also help us to minimize the cost which can incur with respect to time, as the time as the cost is not specifically related to raw material monetary dimension. It has got energy related, it has got time related, it has got different other costs being available into account. So to minimize the time related costs, we are not missing with the, we are not incurring with the higher costs in that direction. We must have all the standards with each dimension of work to be performed. Another dimension, as I've mentioned, that is the cost standards. This is related to other dimension, maybe the financial dimension, maybe the resource related dimensions are being available with respect to the cost standards. Next standard which is available, that is the income standard. Now organization comes up with the investment on individual, organization comes up with the investment in the market, so there must have certain criteria, targets which is being decided, parameters being decided, under which the performance has to be given to attain this income related standards. Now another dimensions which is available for the establishing under the establishing of standards, market share standards. Like an individual organization is not into isolation, it has to fight along with the different other companies in the same industry. For that purpose, the market share is one of the important dimension where we can identify how much competitive we are with respect to the other industry players. So market standards or market share standards being established, that that certain level of market share must be attained by the organization to have a better position in industry. So next dimension which is available, that is a quality standards. There are different dimensions available with respect to production, with respect to the outcome which company provides. So quality standards that provides in many of the organization TQM practice, that is total quality management practice, has been carried out, under which each work related qualities are being defined and the person whosoever is performing their responsibility need to adhere all those standards. The next dimension of standard is related to productivity, that is how efficiently, how effectively an individual is coming up with any kind of outcome against the standard use of resources, means the optimum utilization of resources and their contribution to to efficient and effective outcome. The next dimension under the establishment of standards is return on investment. Any plan, any execution, any effort is decided on the basis of what type of return being expected from any investment. So organization comes up with all these standards established, that what type of return on investment they are willing to achieve, so that the other work of the organization can be transferred into the similar manner. So the last which is available, that is the quantitative personal standards. So as we have seen, the productivity dimension is already available, but the quantitative personal standard, it provides that for the individual level contribution, how much the contribution individual has to make, so that ultimately we are able to attain what we have targeted for the whole organization. So first and foremost important part for the controlling process is establishing standards for anything to be controlled. Now moving ahead, now as we have decided certain performance related standards, now our work is to measure all the performances. So what we'll do, what we are going to measure, we'll be measuring what are the efforts made against any kind of job profile, what was the efficiency of individual for any kind of outcome, what was the effectiveness. Efficiency means how good an individual is with respect to usage of resources. Effectiveness is how good an individual is with respect to the outcome being produced in a best manner, or the right outcome being produced. And the next dimension is process. If certain dimensions of procedure being defined, how good the person is in following those particular dimensions and instructions related to efforts. Now the next is measuring device. These are the things which we are going to measure. Then the measuring devices are the tools through which we are going to measure individuals' performance under the standards. So the one dimension for this is your mechanized measuring device, where technical equipments, tools, machinery is being available for measuring the outcome. The simple example is when we produce a product that has got certain standard weight, a standard packaging, a standard color, taste, ingredient. So machinery through which that particular product goes through after different processing measures that how well we are in that particular dimension. Now ratio analysis, that what is the investment and outcome related ratio. There are many type of ratios being available with respect to financial dimension or financial ratios, we can say against that. There can be comparative statistical analysis, where we have different data set available with reference to the efforts, with reference to the work done by individual, and these are being cross evaluated with each other. Personal observations made by the superiors with respect to any individual's performance under their supervision, and sampling through which we collect data related to some sample of work being performed, and then according to the statistical tool we identify whether they were capable of maintaining the standards or not. The next, after measuring the performance, we go for determining whether performance matches the standards. So the second step is to measure the performance, and third step to compare with against the standards which being established in the beginning. Now, once they've been matched, they've been cross-evaluated with the standards, we can identify whether they are matching the standards or they are deviating from the standards. In case the matching of standards is available, we are going to attain the planned outcomes. The controlling process is taking place effectively. Whereas when there are certain differences with respect to standards and actual efforts being made, there will be some feedback, there will be certain kind of corrections which need to be inculcated, improvised in the performances, and then these particular things need to be added in the next coming execution. So there will be further, because we'll be adding certain new things, so definitely the outcome will be, as we have discussed, there will be outcome in context of organizational learning. The organization is going to learn better way of performing the similar kind of task which they were performing. Now, how we can come across with the controlling within the organization, what tools and techniques are available within the organization with respect to any control process to be established, control process to be implemented within the organization. There are certain things being explained in this, which we'll be discussing in detail. The first which is available, that is project management. So project management is related to any kind of work which is being assigned to the organization. All these assignment related work being measured overall in different dimensions. What we can come up with, we come across with the overall planning for that particular project, we can have a supervision, and we can have a control of the projects. So projects, what project is going to be a unique one time event that occurs within a defined time period. So we can identify that the work within the organization can be either categorized into different projects, or the organization itself getting certain projects, as we have discussed in the project organization. Gantt chart PERT and CPM are the two different other measures which we can use for controlling the processes, controlling the methods.